All right. Let's see. Everybody just relax for a second. Just calm your dicks and tits right now. Hold on a second. I'm checking something here because I don't have something from before. So now I have something now. I got to go back and look at it. Stand by. This is going to be a little weird. And I know. Don't look at that. Don't look at that. You're not supposed to look at that. Go back down here. And because there was something I forgot. And someone's going to bitch about it. Someone's going to go, hey, man, you forgot the jar. All right. The jar is up. The light is green. The trap is clean. Now we can begin. Well, that's a full jar. I didn't have time to empty the jar. All right. So it's a garage show. We are not in my garage, as you might have noticed. It is Friday, August 2nd, 6 o'clock p.m. Los Angeles time. This is Gen X. This is Gen X Talks. This is a garage show for Gen X Talks, okay? It's nothing important. It's nothing scientific. If you're looking for a classroom experience, if you're looking for someplace to take notes, you came to the wrong place. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not going to make stuff up. If I don't know, I'll just tell you I don't know. We're going to talk about some fun stuff and just have a good time, talk about the basics, answer some questions. Now, I do have something over here, because I was looking a little chalky. And where'd it go? There's a pop-out chats over there. Let me find it for you real quick, then you guys can decide. Now, you see, I tinted myself to look like the environment. See, a little chalky, a little pasty, a little more pasty than usual. I was trying to match the environment so it looks a little more realistic. But someone's probably going to bitch and complain. I'll just leave it there for now. All right. How the hell is everybody doing tonight? It is Friday. What are you doing here? Aren't you supposed to be out partying? Yeah, you got your girl waiting for you? I know. You're old, like me. Or maybe you got your girl sitting with you and she's like, okay, 1 hour for Gen X Talks. Then we're going out. Right, Harold? Then we're leaving. We're going out. Yes, honey, we got reservations at Applebee's as soon as the show's over. Just relax. Calm your dicks and tits. Oh, who's in here tonight? Now, are we did we make it up on Facebook Blue? Facebook Blue and YouTube? Those are the only two places we're trying to go tonight.
Amy says no personal.
No personal. I never gonna do a garage show on personal. Maybe Facebook Blue and YouTube for sure, and then sometimes Rumble. But until we get our dials in on this stuff to go global, I'm just keeping it simple. So just two places tonight. All right. Trippy Pineapple is got the PayPal up. Then I'll pin the PayPal message or that. Jane Motz is in. Danny H. Scott Royston. Firewood R. Jeremy B. 787. No L. Who else in here? Nicholas Noon. There's some familiar names, and I see some names I know. King Wise and Oak hasn't flipped me off yet. That's a good thing, but we haven't done a big test. Wolfie. Saturday morning in Australia. One white name in there. One grayed out name. Adam Fields. That's two. Virtual garage. It is. It's too fucking hot outside. That's why we can't do it from my garage. You guys would know we've done some shows from the garage. We show you some things in the garage. We even have a little drawing board. We do some stuff. Those shows are fun. They're clever. They're witty. They're coming back. But it's either this or nothing right now because the temperature outside, not only is it hard on me, and my big, fat, natural white ass, no matter how much I hydrate, but it's also hard on your queen. Yeah. My wife who comes and she does the sheets out there. She does help with a lot of setup, and she does some direction like do this, do that, just like normal. However, with this type of heat where it's 108 outside, it's 128 inside the garage, a little bit taxing on us. Please forgive us for being in the virtual environment, but that's all we got. So if you guys have any questions, write them down, say something. We have moderator Sammy Joe is your moderator over in Facebook, and Trippy Pineapple, it looks like, and Disney Kid looks like they're taking care of YouTube. So if you guys got something to say and it's while I'm talking, they'll write it down. They'll copy and paste it. Yeah, so just if you have something clever, poignant, or if you absolutely want to write me a letter on how much you love me or hate me, write it in the comments and wait. Just sit your fat ass down and wait. And in time, they'll bring it up to my attention and we'll talk about it. Unless you hate me, then I'm going to cry in a corner and ignore you, which is what I'm famous for. All right. Yeah, Truth Conquered, putting out these fucking hot sweat. He gets it. All right, so where were we? There was stuff. I didn't get last week. We talked about so many questions you guys had, and that's fine. But it kind of took over the show. I was going to show you some stuff and see if you guys knew what these, for automotive use, these are probably common tools. Probably every mechanic, like, yeah, I know what that is. But for the shade tree mechanic, maybe not so much, because some of these tools you probably wouldn't waste money on because you don't use them that often. Now, if you're in the industry, yes, you'd use them quite a bit. In fact, I watched a TV show. YouTube channel about an hour ago. I was looking for a picture of something, and this guy's channel came up, and it was a video. I said, well, maybe he'll have a picture of what I want in the video, which he did not. And this was just this pleasant, portly fellow, and he just sat there and talked calmly for about, 35 minutes about, I wouldn't operate my shop without this tool. I wouldn't operate my shop without this tool. And he had some very typical tools for a garage. I had all but one of them. I had a different version of something he showed at the very end. And I thought, this guy's not very energetic. He's very nice. He's very nice. A polite guy, easy on the eyes. He wasn't horrible to look at. Not as handsome as what you guys have. No. But, he was like, okay. Then he has 1.3 million followers. This video that was just holding up tools and saying, this is my tool for the shop. I wouldn't run my shop without it. Here's what it is, and here's what it does. Then he goes on to the next tool. He did like 8 or 9 tools. 1.3 million followers, like 500,000 views. I'm like, oh my God. So I just got to go grab some stuff and just talk like a big fat Forrest Gump and 1.3 million views? Who's your daddy? This guy right here. I can do that. And I think we'll stick with what we're sticking to here. All right. Jen, next month, before I get started on my first thing, is there anything you have between the sheets you want to tell me?
Yes. Hang on one second.
Get off your goddamn phone or you're fired.
Staff is talking to me.
Staff?
Jane Motts. I say Jan.
Yeah.
You could do with some air conditioning in the garage, maybe.
Yeah, well, we could, except that's super expensive, and I'm planning on moving next year. If the gods are willing and the creeks don't rise, then I should be out of here in about 18 months. So put some air conditioning in there. We do have for those of you who've been to the barbecue, those of you who've been to my house, I have a big swamp cooler. It's portable. It's a massive unit, 36-inch blade fan. But if I use that, it will cool off the area of the garage that we're in. Yes, it will. But the problem is that it's so loud, the microphones pick it up. So we can be clean on the microphones and sweating our asses off. Or we can be nice and cool and comfortable, and all you guys would hear is... It's up to you. Now, I think personally we're making the right choices, but I could be wrong. We can put up a poll and vote on that later. All right. Are you yawning again? That's the third time you've only been in here for 15 minutes.
Danny H., was Bob Seger referring to classic vehicle distributors when he referenced points sitting way up high?
I'd have to hear. I don't know.
That's Danny H.
Danny H., that's a good one. You got to reference that song and let me know. Maybe I can pull it up and listen to it real quick and we can talk about it. Just see what song is that and what part of the song like at 1 minute in. If you know, that'd be interesting to know. That'd be kind of cool to know that. I may, if I heard it, I'd probably know, but it's not coming to me. That lyric, that line isn't coming to me. All right.
Tommy Hanlon, General, did you ever own or work on motorcycles?
I've owned motorcycles, had dirt bikes, and then no real one street bike, but I don't want to talk about that. And then Harleys and stuff. Yeah, I've worked on those, but not commercially, just for friends and stuff. We just goof around on weekends. That's about it. And then, dirt bikes and quads and stuff, just as you need to when they get old, mess up, and that kind of stuff. Is your dog trying to get in?
Your dog.
Is that who's out there? Is Reagan out there howling at us trying to get in?
Yeah, she's crying.
She's 15 years old, and she's a big German Shepherd, and she just wants in where the air conditioning is. There goes my wife. I don't have a picture. I do have one, but I don't have it on here right now. There she goes, letting her in. There she goes. Go lay down. Go lay down. Go on. Go. I think I have that. Maybe I'll look and see if I do have that.
Howling at the door.
Yeah, it's not a good picture right now, but see, that's my wife sitting back down with the dog. But my L2 is messing up, so I can't show you that. It glitches. All right, so now we're back. Anyway.
Shannon Burgode, 9/16 socket for question.
9/16 socket for exhaust manifold bolts on a 1970 350 small block. I mean, I'm right, but I didn't know if did I get the right answer? I don't know. I'm not going to play. You're going to have a guessing game on what size it is. I have an intake manifold bolt on a 43 Hudson Hornet. What size would that be? Half inch. Now let's move on.
Jane Motts. Oh, I have a question for you, General.
All right, Jane. What?
What was your first car you ever owned?
What? Why do you guys got to do that? I have a hard time Now, imagine growing up in Los Angeles,
It was
in Southern
hot.
California, and imagine that your first car that is yours, and you're going to get out there, and you're getting girls, and you want to put a stereo in it, and you want to cruise, and somehow, with your parents' loving and kind help, you wind up in a 1978 bright red exterior, fake bright red leather interior Ford Pinto.
Woo! Hot.
That car saw no action. If it did, it saw it from a distance, I promise you. So let's not talk about that.
The Sun Valley Fox is chiming in for the garage show. He says Bob Seger was talking about boobs.
Bob Seger was talking about boobs when he
That's
says,
what he said.
when he says points up high.
She says, it's true. He would know. St. Donna said that.
Ain't done. Now he might know, because Bob Seger and Sun Valley Fox are the same age. They both graduated high school in the 30s, so it's possible. I don't know. Is it points? Let's be fair about that. He says points up high. There are some boobs that point. They just naturally point up. That's true. There's all different kinds. There's some that point that way. There's some that point up. Very could be talking about that. Very easily could be talking about that.
All
I
right.
do not know.
Barry Dano.
Barry Dano, your favorite person to ship to in Canada.
Dano. $5. Thirst isn't virtual. Hydrate. A little Jack goes a long way.
I don't have any Jack.
Where's your driving whiskey? What happened to it?
My driving whiskey is empty at the moment, but yeah, it is. I don't have it. It's empty. I don't have any right now, but if I did have some, be a different story. But at the moment, it's empty. So I do need to get my sipping whiskey back. I got to get my driving whiskey back. But what's in the bottom of that is just a skim layer of nothing. But yeah, Gen X Mom.
Firewood Art. 87. F250. 460 fuel vapor separator shutoff valve.
Yeah, what about it?
I gave a number. Discontinued. Workaround ideas.
Bypass it. It doesn't. There's nothing integral. It won't shut down the ECM. It shouldn't shut down the ECM. 87, no. You should be able to just bypass that with a line. Just get a high pressure line. They make them now. You can get high pressure kits and make your own line and go right around that. How many? Do you really think that's vapor lock's going to be a problem? No, I don't think so.
Alrighty.
Yeah, that's my opinion. All right, so I'm going to show you something. I'm going to show you guys a tool. I'm going to show you how it works or how it moves, and let's see if any of you know what it is. We brought this up about a year ago, but I don't think we gave it its due. So I'm going to show you something right there. This is a tool. Not many people have one. Not even a lot of mechanics have this because they buy things in such a fashion you don't need it. But there is this, and then it goes like this. I won't tell you how you use it or what you do with it. But this is an automotive tool, and it's very heavy. It's flat on this side, and you use it by setting it down, and then this is how you set it. Anybody have any ideas on what this tool is?
Ooh.
I guess I should have said what the tool is in the staff thread. Otherwise, Sammy Joe's going to be over there and not know who to copy and paste. So, Sammy, let me give you one over here on the staff thread real quick so she knows.
Matthew Cole has an answer.
Hang on.
Stand by, Matthew. Tim Mitchell, Randy Smith, hang on. You better hurry it up.
Go ahead. I'm good. Yeah.
Matthew Cole says a batter cable crimp, got 2 of them.
Battery cable crimp. Got 2 of them.
Tim Mitchell says ball joint removal tool.
Ball joint removal is wrong.
Randy Smith says cable cutter.
Cable cutter is wrong.
Dave Hollinsworth says hose crimp.
Hose crimp is wrong.
Star Roberts says a tool to put ends on electrical cables like battery cables.
Yeah, they're getting a lot of them now. That's right. That is what you do on small wires. You can just take and crimp them on. You get a pair of those electrical service pliers on there, and you can crimp things.
Jonathan Robert King on Facebook says crimping a battery terminal.
That's correct. Well, battery wire, not on the battery, but a battery wire. Yes. So you can just crimp those things if you got the tool and it's small, a 10 gauge wire or smaller. You can just crimp solderless terminal ends on there. You should solder them on, but you can do the solderless ones and wrap them when you're done. But on big ones, on big 2 gauge and 4 gauge wires, you have to put the copper end on the wire, put it in here, let it down, and then you smack it on top with a hammer, and it folds it over. And it's, if you can see down there, it's actually got a divot on the bottom of the silver centerpiece, the center punch on there. It's got a divot. There you go. Kind of see the divot. Yeah, a little bit. There you can see it. Anyway, it does a real good job. They don't use them much anymore, but when you're making your own cables and you're not just buying one from the dealership that goes from point A to point B, or you're going to put another ground strap and you want it to be solid in the copper, you can. I've used those and soldered them. I've soldered them in place and then pushed them down like that with this tool. There's not a lot of people that have these. I'm sure you can still buy them, but nobody cares anymore because like, oh, you're just going to buy it from the parts house or from the dealer direct. You got to do it that way. All right. That was one. I got one I want to show you on here. You guys are going to know what this is, but I doubt that you're going to believe me that Automotive uses it. Okay. Let's show you that. Now, I know to everybody that looks like just like a stethoscope, which is essentially what it is, but it just looks like a regular stethoscope, and you think, why on earth would you use a stethoscope in Automotive? Well, if you don't have a broomstick handle, if you don't have a broom handle, a broomstick, then you got to have one of these. Now, let me tell you a couple things, because there's one, I couldn't find a picture of the one I wanted to show you. So you take a stethoscope, and you can see that it's got this metal rod that runs, well, I'm doing it wrong. Don't, it goes here. Metal rod running right along there. See that metal rod? That sticks in the bottom of it, and you can put it in your ears, and you can touch the motor. You can hear if it's knocking. You can hear if it's clicking. If you're really good, if you hear a hydraulic lifter or you hear a valve tapping, you can tell where. You can tell which side of the motor. You can even go down the valve cover and tell where, if you've done it enough. Another one is that if you hear a buzzing noise, a burning type of a smell and a noise up front, you know that one of your bearings is going bad. You can take off the belt and spin each one by hand. Or if you're just checking real quick, you just take and put it on the non-spinning part of the bearing, you know, the belt going around in front, the non-spinning part. Because you put on the spinning part, as every mechanic knows, it blows your fucking eardrums out. But you can take and put it right on the center bolt on those things and tell which bearing is going bad. It's loud. Now noise transfers, so you got to get good at it. You can, an air conditioning compressor bearing failure can make a noise through the whole thing. But I'm telling you, if you learn, you practice on that, you can tell really quick what's going on. Now, there's more than just that. Do you notice how on the end of it, looks like a horn off of a bicycle? You see something in the 40s or 50s. That's not what it is. That is what is known as an ear. That's just a class piece for an ear. And you can put your stethoscope in and point that wherever you want it and pick up noise. Well, the most common thing is people listen for wind noise coming in a car. If you're sitting in the back seat of a car and you're driving 70 miles an hour and you can hear air coming through, but you can't quite tell where it's from, you got your buddy driving the car, you sit in the back, put that on, take that and go around the door frame. Go around the door frame on this side. Sooner or later, you're going to hear very loudly where that air is coming in. There's other ways to check. But the reason I said I couldn't find the picture I wanted to find, there was a tool, I want to say in the very early 90s, that was one of these that came in a big kit. And you could get off the Snap-on truck, and it was called the Big Ear. And there was actually two versions that I saw. The Big Ear had all sorts of these, looked like these horns that you see in this one. And there were some tremendous ones. They had straps on them, and the part from your ears down, the hose that the noise would travel through, some of them were 20 feet long. Let me tell you why. A lot of times you're driving down the road and you hear a noise coming from under the vehicle, and you can't tell where it's coming from. And your buddy can drive shotgun with you, your other mechanic friend, you can't tell where it's coming from. And sometimes it's difficult to know where these noises are. Sometimes they squeak, sometimes they rattle, sometimes they clunk, sometimes they're just a rotating noise. Now, as you get on in your years, you learn what you can get real close just by driving it. No, we're not a car whisperer, but if this is a true statement, an old man told me this one time. Anybody older than me is an old man, anybody younger than me is a kid. So at the time, he was really old. He was probably in his 30s at the time. And he told me, he says, if you drive a car, it'll tell you what it needs. It'll tell you what's wrong with it. Now, I thought he was full of shit. But what he meant by that is if you listen, if you feel a car, you can tell if the problem is you're running out of gas, if the fuel pump's low. You can tell if you have a distributor problem back when they had distributors. You can tell if the exhaust is kind of plugged up. You can tell what part of the steering is worn out by what the car's trying to do while you drive it. He wasn't wrong, and it's harder now with today's technology. But back in the day when cars were much simpler, you really could feel a car would tell you you would discover what it needs by your test drive. You could tell quite a bit. But back in the day when you're learning that process, the big ear, I saw people strap this thing with bungee cords and put the ear pointed towards suspension. I've seen them put it towards a drive line. I've seen them put it towards U-joints. I've seen them put it towards the rear axle. I've seen them take the big ear and put it all over the car in different places, strap it in place and go drive the car and see if you've guessed correctly where the noise is coming from. And it's quite a big help when you get lost and you can't figure out where the noise is coming from, and then you put this big ear down there and you're sitting in there listening as you're going down the road, and all of a sudden you hear the noise really, really loud. Get back out. What's the ear pointing at? It's pointing at that right there. Then that right there is your problem or your problem area. The two versions of the big ear I saw, one was mechanical like this, with just you plug things in. There was also an electronic version that came out. I never got to use it, but I know saw a guy buy one off the truck, and it was electronic, and it was headphones that were plug-in. I mean, big cover your ear headphones ones, and that was electronic version of the big ear. A lot of the same adapters, but you could raise and lower. If you kind of heard it, you could turn up the volume on it to increase the gain what you were listening to. Anyway, I don't know why I told you that story, but that's a true story. Yeah, Gen X Mom.
TDP wants to know if you can make that horn sound one more time. Demonstrate it.
Not a fucking chance in hell. Can't you see? Trippy makes it. I make faces or I'm making noise. I'm trying to do a sound effect to move the program along, and Trippy Pineapple here on staff, that he just needs to be fired. He just got to be fired. He has a library of all the noises and sounds and faces I've made over the past 4 years, and quite embarrassing. You know what he's saving them for is the Christmas party, the Gen X Talks staff Christmas party, where he can bring it out and get a good laugh, put it on a big projector screen. He will be fired before that, so he's uninvited to the Christmas party, and then he can rejoin the ranks after Christmas is over. All right.
Alrighty.
Care Brat says, I'm lost. Well, it's typical for you, sweetheart. I've seen how you drive, so I'm just saying. All right. What else you got?
Mark from Facebook, what's your ultimate dream car?
Well, my ultimate dream car, not that I've thought about it very often, but if I had to guess, if I just to pull a car, a name of a car out of my hat to a dream car, I guess I would say a 1967 AC Cobra with a 429 Super Cobra jet, Pacific blue with white stripes and tan leather interior. And the only reason I bring it up in such detail is so I can demonstrate my indifference to the topic, and that I don't even think about it that often. It's just, whatever pops in my head. Since you asked, now, if you're going to write a check, get two. Let's both have one, but yours can't be blue. Mine's blue. You can be red. All right. Anything else?
Michael Callahan on Facebook. Oh, I got a question.
All right, Michael Callahan.
What did you say how to fix power windows? Driver's side works perfect. Passenger side has some timers. Sometime it works, sometime it doesn't.
All right, repeat.
Dodge 2004 1500 4.7.
And repeat the question again.
How do you fix power windows? Driver's side works perfectly. Passenger side is sometimes not.
Well, if the passenger side does not go up and down with its switch at all, but you can roll it up and down with the driver's side, then you have a bad switch. Now, if it goes up and down sometimes, then you probably have two bad switches. Motors either work or they don't. Now, if it binds up in a regulator, that's something different, but you'll hear that clunking and grinding. You hear a cable moving inside. But at the times that it does work, if it works just fine, it sounds just fine, you're dealing with one or two switches. But if it always, there's more information. You could say, yeah, it never works from the passenger side ever. That switch doesn't do anything. However, sometimes from the driver's side, it works, not very consistently, but it works. Well, that means that switch is dead and this one's dying. nothing inside because the motor, either the motors work or they don't. Very, very, very rarely in those did the window regulator motor, quit, come back, quit, come back. That just doesn't happen. Not even if you overheat them. Anything else?
Yes, Pat on Facebook. I'd like to see you prank the boy. He always messes with you. He needs a crazy prank.
Yeah. He little tender-hearted right now. He moved out of the house a month ago. Him's struggling. Him's got a weak heart. I think if I pranked him with something right now, he'd fold up into the fetal position, sucking his thumb and cry for his mama. True story. Yeah.
Darren West on Facebook. Could you rebuild a VW Bug engine blindfolded?
Well, part of it, yes. The problem that I've had growing up, and it was a kid, so I never tried to do this, never had the opportunity to try to do it at a professional level when I had a shop, was that the Volkswagen engines, the cases come apart in two, like a Subaru does. And the problem that I had the few times that my friends and I tried to do this, and we tried to do everything we could, is getting those cases to seal. And make, we could do the push rod tubes and the valves and the heads, no problem. We could I probably could set the valves blindfolded just by the drag feel of the feeler gauge, just because was something so common in my youth, not because I'm super talented at it. It's just that it's ingrained in your head from repetition. However, the big problem is that trying to do something with those two halves of the cases, we never got them to seal quite right. I had the same thing with rotary engines, like a pancake, stacking a pancake after pancake, layer after layer on those big RX-7 bolts on that. Just never quite could get those right. Even when I worked at the dealership, it was a real tough thing to do. I think eventually Mazda quit allowing dealerships to take them apart. Maybe it's different nowadays, but back then they finally said, look, we'll just ship you a whole fucking engine, quit trying to put them together. Everybody had trouble with those. They were tough. They were real tough. So can I make it run? Sure. Can I make it not drip oil out of the split case? I don't know. That was probably, now I could figure something out, machining it and whatnot. But back in the day, God, that was hard. Tough deal. It was tough to do. So anyway, yeah. Plus we always ran ours real hot too.
Adam Fields in YouTube. Talk about the new cars working on the CAN bus system.
Well,
what is that?
The short version of CAN bus is it's an area network. It basically means all the computers talk to each other, and there's good and there's bad about that. Actually, I'm lying. I don't think there's anything good about that. The CAN bus systems are just wiring that goes from every computer to every computer, and they're no longer geographical. They used to be geographically located, like, if they were near each other, they would connect, but they have to talk to each other. Today's computers, believe it or not, are all VIN coded. Now, we're going through a learning curve here, so let me race through it. Back in the day, years ago, 15, 20 years ago even, if you had a certain a Ford pickup truck computer that was bad, you could go down to a junkyard and get another computer and put it in, and away you go. If you had a driver's control module, or something you can go to a transmission control module, if it had all the same options on it, the same transmission, the same engine, you go get it, you plug it in. Then it got to be where the factory was saying, no, we don't want you doing that. We want you to buy the parts from us. So you had to go buy brand new parts. So remanufactured parts came along to be programmed. So you could buy a brand new part, or you could buy a blank part from a aftermarket source, and you could program them. So first it was you grab them from a junkyard, it's fine. Then it was no, you can't. No, you can't. They have to match, or if the computers all don't talk to each other and they don't have the same VIN number, won't go. Then it was, well, you can't program the old ones. You can't program the junkyard ones. You have to get a new one, and then you can program the new ones. You can get a remanufactured one. You program those. And now, from what I understand, they've kind of gone full circle with that. This is nothing I've tried, but they say sometimes now, because computers are made to be able to wipe them clean and reprogram them, now you can get one from a junkyard that is reprogrammable, because you can just wipe it clean and start over again. Now, I don't know if that's true or not. I've just heard stories on that, but it's kind of come full circle. Here we are, able to go back to the wrecking yards and get some stuff. Now, like I said, I don't know if that's accurate, but the fine point of this, what you asked, is if I took a brake control unit, and I put it in where it didn't belong in this truck. It's out of a similar truck, same year, same engine, same transmission, same brakes, same color, same everything. But if it doesn't have the same VIN number programmed in, all the other computers go, whoa, you don't belong here. You're not part of the team. You don't have the same VIN. And they either I've seen them where nothing will work. Nothing. It's a safety issue. Sorry. Now you're not going to fire up your engine. You're not going to drive because the brake one is not the right one. It's not that we're not turning on. Nothing's going to happen. Or I've had them say, I've had them where the brake control unit completely stays off, even if it's the right one. The CAN system is an area network, communication area network where they all have to talk. It's not called that though. It's not communication area. It was another name for it, but it is a network. All the computers are on one network. If the problem is that if something goes wrong with the network, if something goes wrong with the communication, it shuts everything down. Guess what? You're stuck on the side of the road and you want to get somewhere. You can't go out and take some bubble gum and some wrapping and go in there and say, well, I'm going to fix my area network. I'm going to fix my CAN system. No, you're not. You're going to call a tow truck. You're going to call AAA. That's how you're going to get through that mess. Back in the day, they didn't have that shit. Everything was independent. Even when computers started to become computers, most of them were independent and they did their job themselves. Now, that's a brief one on it. There you go.
Justin Bennett wants to know, how does a rotary engine work? Asking as someone that's never seen one before.
That would be tough to describe. All engines work on compression, obviously. Reciprocating motors, pistons go up and down. We've all seen pictures of pistons going up and down. And a rotary engine has a 3-pointed rotor blade that spins in an oblong pattern, forms its compression as it wiggles around in there, and you actually have to you can't just run it. You can't check compression with a regular compression gauge because it actually takes there's 3 points to this rotor blade, and compression relies on 2 of the seals of the 3, and then these 2, and then these 2. So if you get one seal, one apex seal as they call it, if it goes bad, it effectively kills two-thirds of that cylinder. So, but it spins around in an oblong pattern. They have great demonstrations. If you go to YouTube and do rotary engine functional or rotary engine exploded view, or just a video on how it works, they will show you exactly how it's put together and how it works. You'll get it then. The technology they have for modeling those things is so much better than it's ever been at any point in history. It's great to be able to watch some of those things and learn how they work. A lot of you guys have asked me written questions like, I don't understand how a transmission works. And I've linked you to, animated graphics on how a transmission works. It'd be the same way with a rotary engine. You go to an animated display of how a rotary engine works and you'll get it. They're just amazing what people can put together on those things.
Matthew Cole says you need the whiteboard.
Yeah, the whiteboard. I could have explained a little more on the rotary engine on the whiteboard. Yes, that is true. I could have done that. That's only because I worked for Mazda for a long time, so I did get some of that information. Most dealerships and most guys don't really have much of an understanding because they don't work on them. They don't need to. It's not a hit on them. It's just not necessary. But yeah, Wankel and I will tell you this though, that the rotary. 2 stories about the rotary engine. They started, the rotary engines just stacked. Like you can have piston after piston after piston after piston, and you can have 30 pistons in a row. All right. Well, it's the same idea with rotors. You can it's rotors on a crankshaft and another one. And they're only limited, their RPM is limited by their crankshaft, which they call an eccentric shaft or eccentric shaft. And if they could actually develop a steel that they could make that out of that would spin at 30,000 RPM, it'd do it. There's almost no limit. So they started putting those things, racing them in Le Mans, and they won every year. And then they said, well, you can't turbo them, so they just put more blades on there. More. They sealed up more. They made them instead of 2 rotors, they went to 4, and they still won. And they said, okay, no more rotary engines. And then Mazda had to quit. They just won every year. You can't beat it on acceleration, like you just can't. And so that was one deal. The other one was that back in the 80s, everybody was trying diesel engines in cars. Oldsmobile had the worst diesel engine I'd ever seen in my life. But Mercedes was big on diesel. Everybody having diesel engines in cars. At one point, they thought that was really going to be the way to go, especially with the gas crunch that came in the 70s. Diesel was going to save all of us, even though your Mercedes driving down the road sounded like a little fucking cement truck. It did. You pull up to a stoplight and this thing's just gargling away like a cement truck right next to you. So somebody designed on paper a rotary engine that was a diesel. Yeah. It was going to overcome a lot of the shortcomings that gasoline and ignition systems were having with RX-7s. And so I'm guessing it was Mazda, came up with a diesel. They designed it. They didn't build it, as far as I know. They designed a rotary diesel engine. And Mercedes bought the patent to it just so nobody would be able to build a diesel engine that would compare with theirs. I don't think they ever built one. I went to several classes at Mazda on that over the years, and that was brought up by senior technicians and instructors more than once, that they had seen the designs and it was patented. The patent held was Mercedes. So there's some interesting stuff for you that nobody needs to know. My head is full of useless information. I have a plethora of stuff that doesn't matter to anybody. Half of it is wacky because I don't remember the other half of it. So there's bits and pieces that need to be filled in. But in my head, there's two things that go on inside my head. You remember those puzzles that you do where there's a big story and you fill in the adjective, you fill in the noun, you pick a person's name, pick a number. That's kind of how my stories are. There are a lot of fill in the blank. The other one is that when I'm telling a story and I kind of get to the end of the pages in the middle of the story, it's like a choose your own adventure book. I go to page 36 and keep talking. Hopefully, when I'm talking about rotary engines and I flip the page, I don't switch over to something like, now we're talking about cottage cheese. I'm hoping it stays on topic. That would be a plus for me. Yeah, Gen X Mom.
Trevor Phillips is asking a question in the chat on YouTube. Who prefers old school 4-barrel carburetors over EFI here?
Yeah, there's as far as fuel economy goes, carburetors are never going to match it. But there's something satisfying about a carburetor when you actually have linkage from the gas pedal you push that opens the throttle, and they sound better, and they give a different vibe to them. They're not as efficient, so they're going to outlaw them all. At one day they're all going to be outlawed. You're only going to be able to drive your carbureted car in parades on Sunday in the month of July. That's where it'll go with all this. But yes, I do prefer them also.
Barry Dano. $10. I wonder how many young mechanics and upcoming mechanics have ever used or even seen an old school flywheel turner. I always used a pry bore, 5-6 tooth at a time.
Yeah, I have a flywheel turner. It's actually, I use it more for holding the flywheel, and it also fits obviously on the end of a torque converter when torque converter has a ring gear. Some of those old ones did. If you remember, those torque converters had a ring gear built onto them. Some of them bolted to the flywheel, or actually it's never true. If you want to know the truth, if you want to get technical, torque converters never bolted to a flywheel. Go ahead, let's the hate begin. Come on, let's hear the hate. No, it's not true. Fuck you. I've bolted them up. No, you didn't. Because technically, if you want to go to the technical side of the book, does anybody know? I wonder if anybody knows what that is. If you automatic transmission torque converter doesn't bolt to a flywheel, it bolts to a nobody. No, there we go.
Flex
Houdini
plate?
got it right. Flex plate. That is correct. Sometimes very similar. But that's not what they're called. They're not a flywheel. Flywheel is on a standard transmission with a clutch. Well done, Houdini. Good job there. Anybody else? 1, 2, 3, time out. 1, 2, 3, go. Okay. I got something to show you that there is no way and put it up on the screen. There's no way a young guy would ever know this. I missed this on my ASC test. This is one of the tests. I had an engine rebuilding. Yes, I was ASC certified. And I missed this one. And I was so pissed because I came back to the dealership I was working at, and I brought up the question. These old timers walked over and they were laughing at me. They each had one in their toolbox. I go, why the fuck would you even need this tool? And they pursue, well, back in the day when engines, I go, that's not how they're made anymore. Nobody gives a shit. It should not be on the ASC test anymore. And I missed it because I didn't know what it was. And now you can look and see if you know what it is too. Ready? 1, 2, 3. There it is. Does anybody know what that tool is? Let alone how it works, because setting it up and making it work. And there's newer ones that are more adjustable, and that they got the set screws on top, little 10 millimeter set screws, and you can set them to the side and push them out, and they expand. And the big nut, which you can't see under that little nut, is like a 3/4, and you run that around to have it do its job. But I had no idea what it was, and when they told me, I'm like, who fucking builds engines that way? How is it even possible? But they were right, I was wrong, and that's why I missed it. I don't know if anybody knows what that is. A cylinder polisher? No. Oh, Mr. Fatty. Mr. Fatty. He got it right. Justin Hart said it's a hone. Not technically, no. The man they call Jay called it a die. Not really. Matthew Cole, yes, but not the right name. But yeah, close. That is a ridge reamer. Now, you're right. Again, if we had the drawing board behind us, the general could draw the shit out. Well, we don't have it. All right. But if a pistons are going up and down inside the cylinders, if they go all the way to the top, but not quite, as a cylinder, right? As they wear, going up and down the cylinder, and the cylinder begins to expand over wear and tear and time. If they don't go all the way to the top, that top part's still going to be the same size, right? It doesn't get worn out and get bigger as time goes on. So you get a little bit of a lip, just a little bit, or a ridge, if you will. You can reach down on the cylinder wall and just feel a little bit of a ridge. This is a ridge reamer. It sets down, it opens up, and you spin it, and it very slowly by hand cuts. There's usually 2 or 3 settings on it, so you can clean that up, and then you could begin to bore it and do whatever you're going to do. But that's not, if you're going to send it to a machine shop, they'll just cut right through it anyway, and it won't matter. But for the backyard mechanic, for the dealership guy, and imports really solved all this. Imports, I never saw a Toyota, a Honda, a Mazda, a Mitsubishi that ever needed one. I'm sure they might at some point, but I never saw one that needed one. It was all the older American stuff from the 50s, 60s, and 70s that always needed a ridge. I didn't even know what this fucking tool was. I was so mad when I was young, and I failed that one question on that test, and then the old dudes laughing at me, and they, sure as shit, they pulled out their ridge reamer tools, and I'm like, oh my fucking God, you dinosaurs. Every one of them was old, had to have been 35, maybe 40. What are they doing with these old fucking tools, these old codgers?
Aren't you there now?
What's that?
Aren't you there now?
No, because everybody older than me is an old man. Everybody younger than me is a kid. So,
all right, yeah. Hydrate, babe, while I talk.
Hydrating, go ahead.
Danny H. gifted 5 memberships tonight to Lefarious Monster, Endlessly Edgy, Takasama, Melissa with 1 S, and Trey Schmidt. They all got memberships tonight from Danny H.
Melissa with 1 S.
Yes.
That's a very specific name. Melissa with 1 S.
Wolfie wants to know, would you consider starting another mechanic shop and employ mechanics to do the work?
Not in California. No way. No way. Now, in Nevada or Oregon, yeah, I think it'd be kind of fun to do that. But the problem is that where I'm going is a small town, and they don't want some outside guy coming in here, open up in a shop. They've got, in this small little town I'm going to, they probably have set customers, set ways. Unless they have one shop in town and he sucks, and everybody hates him, and everybody goes there because he's the only shop in town. That's different.
All right.
But yeah, I wouldn't do it in California. No possible fucking way.
Pat Nelson on Facebook wants to know, why are spare car part junkyards disappearing? Is it because of the lack of metal or the computer VINs? Or maybe it's a combination of both of them. Any thoughts on that?
I don't know why they'd be going away, because there's still, you always got doors and glass and seats and hoods and trim pieces. Motors can be sold as a solid one big motor. You can sell a transmission as a transmission. They're always good for cores. I don't know why they'd be going away. there's still a use for them. The things that you can't use, which we just talked about, is a lot of the computer and electronics. On the computer side of the electronics, you can still, if you have a computer that runs your outside mirrors, the motors that are inside the mirrors can still be swapped out. You don't have to, as far as I know, they don't have to be compatible on that. But yeah, you can also buy things there used to be. You can buy a whole computer setup. You can buy the whole thing, buy all the wiring, all the computers and everything, and then put them in as one unit and then they match. But, that's a lot of fucking work and really super expensive.
Jacob Mack on Facebook. Can you explain how a diesel common rail system works?
No. Yes, I can't explain how a diesel common rail system works, but I'd have to draw that out for you. And I'm not a diesel guy.
Can we do that next week?
We could probably do that next week, but
with a whiteboard.
With a whiteboard, yeah. But
okay.
To do it here without a whiteboard and with my limited knowledge, you get a basic of it, you get the basic understanding. But then if you said, now how would I diagnose? I'd have to stop you right there. Go to a diesel guy. There's guys that are way better at it than I am by a lot.
Edward on YouTube wants to know, General, does Seafoam work on an intake vacuum hose?
Yeah, Seafoam works pretty good. It's one of the products that I did use a lot of, but it depends on how you use it too. Now, if you're trying to clean carbon off the upper end of your engine, the back of the intake valves and the top of your pistons and stuff like that, the way that I used to do it, yes, but through a hose is good. Try to get it in the center of the engine. Don't pick a port that's near the back, because then the back cylinders get all the Seafoam, the front cylinders don't get any. But if you can get a vacuum supply hose close to the center of the intake, center of the engine, get the engine cooking hot. Get it cooking hot. Pour all your Seafoam into a glass jar that you can see while the engine's running, and you have some vacuum coming out of that hose. Stick it in there, and as soon as it drains all the Seafoam down to zero. Right as it gets to the bottom, shut it off. And I mean, right as that hose sucks all the way down to the bottom, shut the engine off. Why? Because what you've done, if you've got it to every cylinder, you got it to the back of every valve, you got it evenly through everything. Remember, your engine's cooking hot, and now you've just put a thin layer of that stuff all over the inside of the intake, the back side of the valves, and the piston, and you shut it off. If you let it run, the pistons just keep pumping the stuff out, sucking it in, pumping it out. Within 12 seconds, you probably got some use out of it, but most of it, you just shifted out the tailpipe. But if you shut it off midstream while it's drinking it, it stays and it soaks. Let it soak for 2 hours. Fire that thing off again. Now here come the jockeys. The fun fact is, well, Jim, you tell someone to do that, you're liable to blow your engine because big chunks of carbon will come off and they don't compress. They'll knock and put a hole in your piston. Could happen. Pretty rare. You'd have to have so much fucking carbon in that engine. Your engine got to have 300,000 miles on it anyway. Come on. I mean, yes, you can't tell people to do that, Joan. You're just asking for trouble. They're going to hydrolock their engine. They're going to fucking, I didn't tell you to use a fucking 3-inch hose. No. Use a small one. Use a 7mm hose. I didn't tell you to rev the engine at $9,000 and suck it out of the jar, did I? I didn't tell you to do it on an engine that's got so much fucking carbon in there it's going to put a hole in something, did I? Yeah, you can be a fun fact Freddy. You can list me the rare odd example of something that might happen. And that's why we have disclaimers. Well, I'm giving you advice here, but don't do it because it could ruin your day. And it could be very expensive. Don't do anything I've told you because there is a possibility something could go wrong. But you asked me how I used it. So that's how I used it. And it worked. I never lost an engine, never had any big pieces of carbon come off that were a problem. It could have, but it didn't. Chances are it won't with you. But there's always going to be some asshole who comes along and says, well, let me tell you, what's going to happen? This motherfucker's going to tell some guy to do this. He's going to put a hole in his engine, and he's going to have a lawsuit on his hand. Fuck off. It could happen. Then don't do it. Don't do any of the shit I said. Use it at your own fucking risk. If you don't like it, don't do it. Otherwise, don't fucking ask me questions. But the last thing I want is someone coming in here, picking apart all the little possibilities that could go wrong. You know what? I could do that on every automotive channel I see. Every time someone gives someone advice on an automotive channel, I could sit there and go, well, there's a chance what you just did with what you told that guy could end up bad. Yeah, with everything you fucking say and everything you fucking do. So what? And if you're that guy, If you're that guy who goes around to channels and you write comments like, well, you better be careful what you say there. You have to worry about, this could happen. If you're one of those guys that goes around and quotes the extreme possibility, the rare possibility, and then you'll follow up with, well, I've seen it happen quite a few times, so it's not so rare. Fuck you. You did not. You did not. You're just saying that now because everybody said, okay, that's a rare possibility. Why would you bring that up, dumbass? It's not so rare. I've seen that happen on more than one occasion. My uncle owned a shop and he saw it, twice a week or something. Yeah, fuck off. You're lying. You're lying to cover up the fact that you're a fun fact Freddy and you're an asshole about it. That can be said with every piece of advice anybody gives anybody ever, 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 ever. And it's because of morons like you that everybody has to put disclaimers on everything because there's some dillhole like you going to come around and cry and go, I just did what he said. I thought he said to pour the whole can in there while it was idling at 10,000 RPM. I didn't think that was wrong. Well, I don't know what's going on. Yeah, fuck off. Maybe next time you get your bell rung and things will rattle back straight in your mind, you won't be such a dillhole the rest of us. Sorry, I'm on a tangent right now. Okay, go ahead.
Would you hydrate for a second?
Yeah, go.
Mr. Fatty, $2. Do you have the ring groove cutter?
The ring groove cutter. Do not have one anymore. Did. Yeah, but not anymore. But never had much of a chance to use it. I even had a valve grind machine, but didn't have much of a chance to use it. By the time I was doing stuff at a shop, you pull a cylinder head off, we would send it to a reputable machine shop, let them go through the whole thing, and bring it back to us. They did them all the time. We could move on to other jobs. While that one was in the shop, we could be doing other things like brakes and tune-ups and belts and hoses and stuff. So it really wasn't cost-effective to do some of that internal work, especially when you had a really good machine shop in town. Just saying.
Excuse me. Ed, over on Facebook, do you ride a motorcycle? If so, what's your go-to bike?
Harley Davidson. Softail. Heritage. It's my go-to bike.
Okay.
Now you know. And I used to ride, but I've had a gas leak that I haven't been able to fix in 5 years. I shouldn't say I haven't been able to. Laziness has gotten the better of me. So there you go.
Michael Callahan on Facebook, did you ever use liquid glass in your radiator coolant system just to make it last a little bit longer when your vehicle lasts a little bit longer?
Yeah, no. There's liquid glass is a scary, scary thing to use. There's a lot of things I would not use in that. Let me tell you why. We talked about a couple weeks ago. We talked about pouring pepper in your radiator if you had a hose leak or a small crack in the radiator, just a steam leak or something like that. You pour a lot of pepper in there, and that gets you down the road because the pepper would clot up. There's a Lumaseal you can pour in there, and that clots up. The problem is that pepper will go away after a while. If you pour an additive into your radiator like a Lumaseal, and it mixes with the water, and then when it hits air, it solidifies. The problem is that it stays there forever. You actually have to pull your radiator and go get it rotted out. You got to get it rotted out and serviced before that stuff comes back out of there. Here's the other one. Let me try to explain something to you. Let's use power steering as a thing. Say, well, I got a power steering leak, and I went to the store and they said, "Yeah, pour this in there. It'll stop your power steering leak. If you got a seal that's leaking, it'll pour this in there." So you pour it in there, you drive it around, and oh my God, your power steering leak stops. Not always, but sometimes it does. How did it do that? How did a bottle of liquid poured into your power steering pump or your power steering pump reservoir, how did that fix the seal and make it stop leaking? Well, it went to the backside of that seal, the rubber that's part of that seal, and the chemicals that are in that liquid you poured in there swell the seal. They expand that seal. They swell the seal onto the shaft. Now, if you've had anything that was worn out, that was disfigured, that had a problem, you've now poured that stuff in there and it's swelled the seal up. It's not leaking anymore. Now, there's two things that go wrong with that. One is it doesn't last forever. Eventually, it wears off and you have your leak again, and you can't do that trick twice. But the other problem is it doesn't know to go just to that one seal that was leaking and swell that seal. It went to every seal in your entire system. It went to every hose in your entire system. It swelled all of them. It went into every piece of rubber it could find and swelled all of them. So at some point, you're going to replace everything. Oops. They didn't tell you that part, did they? No. Be careful what you pour in your transmission. Be careful what you pour in your brake system. Be careful what you pour in your power steering system and your radiator. There's no such thing as engine rebuild in a can. I don't care how many of you redneck, hillbilly, inbred Jed, backwoods, up in the southern Kentucky hollers use Restore and tell me it works. It's not correct. You can't do it that way. Try it on your lawnmower if you want. But you guys probably also use Champion spark plugs and old Pennzoil too. All right. What else you got?
Barry Dano, $20. General, did you ever do the old trick of slowly pouring transmission fluid, then a little bit of water down the carb to get carbon out?
Absolutely did.
A friend of mine found out the hard way. Don't stand behind the tailpipe.
Well, you're fogging mosquitoes for days when you do that. But yeah, we used to do that, get the engine nice and hot, rev it up real high. We would take a bottle or a can and poke a hole in it and steady drip, like a steady stream of real fine, just a fine stream of transmission fluid in there. And the transmission fluid would go down there and it would saturate all of the carbon. Once it was saturated, you take water and you do the same thing. You pour high RPM, you pour water in there, and those beads of water, yeah, they turn into beads of water. They bounce around inside there and beat the shit out of the carbon. Out it goes. I didn't have anything get caught in the valves. Didn't have anything damage the engine. However, most of the time when I did that to an engine that had a heavy carbon, it'd run like shit. We had to pull the spark plugs out because all the carbon you're trying to get out of there and the transmission fluid fucked up the spark plugs. So when you're all done, you pull all the spark plugs out, crank it over a bunch of times, let it pump the remaining stuff out of the holes, put brand new plugs in. Away you go. Down the road motors, baby. Again, we can't do that because of the litigious society we live in. Please don't ever take anything I say seriously. That's what you guys do. We're just shade tree mechanics. There's dealerships and there's mechanics and there's shade tree mechanics and then 50 feet of shit and then we're down here, just like Moneyball. That's where Gen X Talks is. That's where Gen X Talks resides. So don't take anything seriously.
Brent went fishing. 1987 Mazda RX-7 was a great car. Won lots of races. I bet 12,000 RPM once on a missed shift. It was awesome.
Yeah, and you didn't fuck anything up, did you? Those were the 87, if I remember right, was the 13B motors, and they were much better than the 12A motors. And I think, or was it 88 was the cutoff? Was 88 the first 13B? Boy, it's a tough one. I'm thinking that 13B was an 87, but what a great time for those to be part of the development and the rotary engines. It was a lot of fun.
Shadowlight Z2 says, is Seafoam still good in a two-stroke?
I would imagine it would be. I don't know a lot about the two-strokes. That most of those guys use them on jet skis and motorcycles and that, but I've seen a lot of guys use them. A lot of guys that I know and respect, and they're big in the industry, have used it. Seafoam's one of those rare products that does a good job without a ton of risk of fucking things up. And there's not a lot of stuff out there like that. That's one of them you can get away with that does a good job.
Cervantes Family on YouTube. Do you have a valve stretcher machine?
A valve stretcher machine. Yeah, it's from the 17th century. My father had a breastplate stretcher that was handed down to him over the ages. No, I do not have a valve stretcher machine.
The man they called Jay wrote, swim at your own risk.
Yeah, that's it. So you just jump in the water. It's fine. Believe somebody else. Don't believe me. That's right. Swim at your own risk.
Ed and Facebook, what's one piece of advice you have for young guys in this day and age?
Boy, that's a generically huge question. We're still talking about automotive? I know one thing I always used to tell my kids, and it's not true. It's not absolutely true, but I'd get frustrated with my life as a mechanic, and I would pass along pearls of wisdom to my sons. I've raised 32 children, and the last batch of 8 was 4 boys and 4 girls. And I tell my sons, don't do automotive, don't do plumbing, don't do carpentry. And, those are all skilled trades. I said, find a job where you can, two pieces of advice. This is one. Find a job where you can sit at a desk and it's air conditioned in the summer and it's a heated area in the wintertime, and then take your money and go do what you want. The other one was, everybody said, well, do a job you love. Then you never work a day in your life. Well, I guess there's a few jobs out there and a few people out there, because it's not just every person finds a job they love and then they do it forever and they never work a day in their life. Bullshit. I love working on cars. Fucking hated it. I absolutely hated it, because I tell kids, yeah, that's good advice, except after 30 years, you're going to hate whatever job you're doing. So fuck off. Now, there are people, there are situations. Here comes fun fact, Freddie. Well, it's not true. My uncle was a mailman and he loved that job and he did it till the day he died. He's a mailman, loves his job. If you find something you truly love, you'll never work a day in your life. Yeah, okay. That's not the norm. Can we agree on that? So I tell him, I said, Dad, I'm just going to find something I love doing. Nah, go for the money. Whatever job you pick, you're going to hate it after 30 years anyway. So just get paid a bunch of money and then go do what you want for fun, because you got the money to go do it. Air conditioned summer times, heated in the wintertime. A lot of money. I don't care if you're counting banana peels. Go do it. Make a bunch of money and then have the money to go do what you want in your free time. Nah, I don't know if that's great advice. Probably wasn't good advice at all, but I get frustrated and tell them, don't you ever work on cars. I'll kill you. You work on cars, I'll break your legs. Nah, stuff like that.
Last question of the night.
Yeah.
Jonathan on Facebook. Random question and change of topic, I guess.
Okay.
What is your favorite rifle, make, model, caliber?
You just open up so many handguns and rifles and shotguns and things out there. I'm looking for somebody who wants to sell marine grade Benelli shotgun. That's what I'm looking for now. Nobody's got one, but that's a long conversation. And yes, way off topic. 253,000 Savage. Lever action. 79, I think. Anyway. All right. Well, that's it. I hope you had a good time. We talked about a bunch of stuff. Nothing I said made sense. Nothing mattered. It probably didn't resonate with anybody. Everybody who wrote stuff down, I hope you wrote it backwards, because that's the only way it's going to make sense when you read it to someone who has their brain thinking normal. If you read back to them what I just said, they're going to say, who the fuck were you listening to? Although I wasn't high on PCP. I wasn't drunk off of Jack Daniels. So maybe, perhaps, some of the consonants and vowels landed in the right spot, and they made some sense on the paper when you wrote things down. I hope so. I don't know. Listen, I got to get out of here. I got to go. Thank you, Mama X, your queen, Gen X mom, for helping out.
You're welcome.
And that is World Show, a podcast, which the podcast is up. Go to genxtalks.com and look for the podcast. Podcast is up. It's where she kicks the shit out of me for an hour. And she did. It's available right now for free everywhere good podcasts are sold. And then we did a garage show. So we've had 3 shows today.
Yes.
And I'm just about exhausted. I'm just about done. I'm about ready to call it quits. But I didn't want to miss you guys. I love hanging out with you guys. I had more stuff to show you, like this.
Do you feel better, like getting all that stuff out of your brain?
Yes. I feel alleviated. But next week we'll start with this. You guys can see what tool this is and how it works. And you're going to say, well, it's a grabber tool. Well, it's smooth inside. There's no sides to it.
We got to pull out the whiteboard next week.
If we can get outside of the garage, we'll pull out the whiteboard, go over a bunch of stuff. We'll answer your questions with markers and colors. It's so much more fun when we've got charts and graphs that we can just make up.
Mechanics 101.
Mechanics, charts, and graphs as we go along. I got to get out of here. I'm talking silly now, but I got to have dinner. I got to go unwind. Thank you guys for tuning in. If you had an hour of your evening to waste, thank you for choosing to waste it with Gen X Talks Garage Show. Again, not my garage. This is a green screen. Just like the last week was a green screen. And the week before that was a green screen, but we'll get back to the regular garage as soon as the temperature drops below 135. It's fucking hot out here. Thanks again. Not sure where you're listening in from, around the planet, AM, FM, Sirius XM, or perhaps you tuned in on the Armed Service Radio Network. Remember 2 things in this life. Number 1, wherever you go, there you are. That's a guaranteed. And I'll catch you guys on the flip side. I'm out.